How you doing, wrestling fans, and welcome to another edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight podcast, the only wrestling podcast that brings you back 30 years with vintage audio featuring some of the biggest names of that time, and this episode is no exception. The Pro Wrestling Spotlight covered all the news stories and breaking developments that happened in real time. And now we relive those moments and that history right here on this podcast. Today, we will review the April 10th, 1993 Pro Wrestling This Week program, which aired on WNYG in Babylon, New York. And then in the evening show, we cover the Pro Wrestling Spotlight from that same day on WEVD in New York City with a very special guest who made her debut on the show 30 years ago. I'm talking about Madusa, who is going to join us to review her first appearance on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight from 30 years ago. So we really look forward to bringing on Madusa, who has her new book out, and we will play the tapes for her from 30 years ago. I want to remind everybody that our Patreon account is doing well. There's over 200 shows up there. There's vintage audio. There's video clips. There's 8mm films. There's opportunities to come on this program. If you're an executive producer or a producer for that Patreon level, $5 a month gets you in the door, and then you could kind of check it out and see if there are any other levels higher than that you might want to participate in. Just go to patreon.com/John Arezzi, and you can check it all out for yourself. I am going to be appearing in just a few weeks at 80s WrestleCon in New Jersey, taking place at the Men in Sports Arena in Morristown, New Jersey. That's on Saturday, May 6th. It's promoted by my dear friend Tommy Fierro, and I will be there signing my book, Map Memories. And come on by and say hello. That's Saturday, May the 6th in New Jersey at what could be the biggest 80s WrestleCon of all time. Well, right now we're going to talk about April the 10th, 1993. And to do that, let's bring on, as we do every week, our producer and creative director, Marsh, who is hopefully feeling better today.
Hey-oo.
You sound better.
Yeah. I did not record my personal podcast the last 2 weeks, actually, this week and last week, just to try and preserve my throat and voice for recording with you and Madusa as much as possible. And I think it's paid off. Yeah. I have a little residual cough, but, I think we're getting through it.
Yeah. We have been getting great response from the last show, and Broadway Sunny Blaze came back on. People just love the fact that he has come on the show after so many years. And of course, last week was a little controversial when we were talking about the long-standing one-way hatred anyway.
I was about to say one-sided feud is what I'm going to call it.
Mark LaMonaco, also known as Bully Ray, Bubba Ray, Brother Ray, Ray, Bully, Bubba, and whatever other names he uses. But anyway, we're taping the show around the time that the podcast is just being released to the general public. The patrons loved it. Got some great response. So we may have more to talk about on next week's program, but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
We'll see. I am a big fan of Sunny Blaze and just how he is, who he is.
So many people are.
Because, a lot of people talk about it too. Some of the more popular podcasts are the people who aren't trying to leverage positions with companies and stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And some of the podcasts that have lost popularity is when someone from that podcast gets hired on by one of the companies and they become clearly biased. One of my favorite things about Sunny Blaze is he's so appreciative of his time in the business, of every opportunity he was given. He takes full responsibility for it going the way that it went. He's not
he's not bitter.
He's not bitter. He's also not self-grandiose. He doesn't think he was a bigger deal than he was.
He's authentic.
So authentic and so happy doing everything that he's doing now in life that this is just a fun time to talk about old times. It's not him leveraging anything. I love it. He's so genuine.
No, there was no agenda. There was nothing. And, bringing him on that second time, because I was still maybe he had some answers as to why there has been such venom from Bully. So anyway, I think that at least on this side of the microphone, and with Sonny kind of explaining for the first time, because I had no clue what it could be about, and then he kind of opened up some hints, and this could have been why, and this is what happened, and he did it in a very authentic style, and it's been a pleasure to reconnect with him, and he'll be joining us again in the future. And I look forward to when we start this whole shenanigans all over again, and we start reviewing these early shows, because he'll be on pretty frequently at that point.
And the funny part is like we wouldn't have had to have half of an episode digging into it if Bully ever just told you why he didn't like you. Like, it's just, like you said, been so one-sided. So yeah, just fascinating, great, and I can't wait to have him back when we do. So
absolutely. But we have a couple exciting shows to review today, including one with the special guest coming up later today, Madusa.
Yeah,
it's going to be a good episode.
Madusa's always fun to sit down and talk to, because she's another one who comes off really authentic. Like, even though she does clearly have that Legends deal, she is not afraid to say she did not like something or does not like the way something's going, even from that company. So, and if you don't believe me, she just posted on her own YouTube.com Queen of Carnage her review of WrestleMania. It was not as nice as a lot of other reviews I saw. So she's more than happy to go ahead and say didn't like it.
You gotta read it.
But yeah, we have Pro Wrestling this week, April 10th, 93. Don Laible's in Nashville.
Don Laible's down here.
Yeah.
In Nashville.
I pulled a chunk of Don talking here, because it took a while for me to realize that Don was not going to be talking about, he wasn't doing a capsule. He was just telling you what was going on where he was.
In the convention,
Yes. And in the evening show, Pro Wrestling Spotlight, I did not pull it, but Don Laible calls from a payphone during a Jerry Lawler and Scotty Flamingo match that is so noisy. And he says, this is the craziest thing. I've never seen anything like this. People are buying popcorn, not to eat it, but just to throw it. But it was so noisy that I didn't know if it made quite for the best clip.
Hey, if you want to hear it, it's out there. I mean, patreon.com/John Arezzi. The original uncut episodes are there for your enjoyment.
Yes. But I still want to open with Don Laible, because he did have some cool stuff here. I did clip. He has Sapphire with him, who you get to interview.
Yeah.
What I did here is I took the open, because you asked him a couple questions about somebody that I'd like to hear a little more about.
Okay.
I fast forward through the Sapphire interview to get the second part where you talk about this person yet again. But then we do have the entire Sapphire interview on the other side that we has a separate clip. So this first clip is 2 parts combined in one.
Okay. However, I have Don Laible, who's been hanging on. He's in Nashville, Tennessee right now, attending a wrestling fans convention, which I believe there must be at least 50 people there. So a big, big crowd. No, actually, I shouldn't say that, right? But it is true. Let's get on the phone, Donnie. Don, are you there?
Yes, I am, John. How's everything in New York?
Oh, it's raining as usual. Every weekend up here seems to rain.
Well, I got to tell you, here it's 70 degrees in downtown Nashville. Sun is bright and looking good.
But you also have Dr. Mike Lano nearby.
John, I've had pimples that lasted less around me than Dr. Mike this past weekend.
How's a good doctor doing?
Telling everybody about different teeth. Everybody from the Sheik's teeth are all ready to fall out, to trying to book everybody for a convention in St. Louis. So
in May, right.
Rare form. But I'll tell you here, speaking of conventions, this is the first annual Wrestling Collectors Convention here in Nashville. Many of the stars here are from years ago, and I mean years ago, back from the 50s and the 60s, from the South. Some names that the listeners in New York probably would know very well. Of course, Eddie and Tommy Gilbert are here. Bruce Swayze, Dickie Steinborn, people from the Cauliflower Alley. The original great Kabuki, Wahoo McDaniel, Danny Hodge. Right now there's about 40 dealer tables downstairs. They're expecting Sherry Martel in today. We have quite a few people, and tomorrow is the awards banquet. There's 125 people booked for that, so things sound pretty good. Last night we had a show promoted in downtown Nashville. The main event, Dutch Mantel and Eddie Gilbert, and that was a typical Memphis brawl. They went up to the top of the building, throwing garbage cans, running through the exits, and real good show. There's people here from New York, from Massachusetts, and they got the Memphis brawl. But they had a ladies' match, Debbie Combs and Donna Day, and a special guest referee was Sapphire, who many people remember with Dusty Rhodes, and really enjoyed meeting her. And she's here to talk to you for a few minutes, anything you want to say, and we'll give you an update tonight on the convention. Okay, John, what's going on down there?
Well, here right now, just nothing much. A little hungover today, Don.
Where were you yesterday?
Last night I just partied with just some friends, that's all.
And things here have been going till the wee hours, 2, 3, and later in the morning down here. Luckily, I came in last night. I was with Eddie Gilbert, came in around 3 o'clock, and I was told the good doctor, Mike Lano, had just left my room. So.
What do you mean he left your room? Did he put a cot in your room?
No, there's a whole other story. All I can tell you is that it has to deal with hot oil, mud wrestling, jello wrestling.
Is Lano around there by any chance?
No, I made sure of that. He's downstairs right now. That things are getting going in the convention room as far as people setting up.
Yeah,
and,
I was going to bring him on. I was going to bring him on for a few minutes.
I'll make sure. Maybe I can get him this evening.
No, don't do that tonight, because I have Madusa on the program tonight, and we're not going to have Mr. Lano talk to Madusa at all.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing that he didn't call him that evening.
Yeah, he goes, I'll get him tonight. No. There's no way.
No, because he was like fascinated by her.
Yeah?
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. I don't know if he tried to book her. I don't know what, but he was like, I said, Madusa Mark is a reference, but it was interesting. I would have loved if Donnie had Lano right there with him, because he was in the middle of his dentistry and he's trying to fix wrestlers' teeth, and I know he was involved or he was trying to put on a convention in St. Louis, which became such a fiasco. I mean, there was it was like a big story that year that, it just didn't work out. Dr. Mike.
Did he ever get anything going like that, a convention?
I think that was his only attempt. And I tell you what, I mean, because we had him, I think he was on Pro Wrestling Spotlight, definitely on WGBB. We had him on once. And I cut him off, and he goes, "Oh, is that all the time I get?" And I was like, "Yeah." So if he ever comes on again, if there's any of the tapes in the future, let's try to bring him on. That would be fascinating.
Oh, I was hoping that you'd get him, but I like that. Is Mike Lano nearby? No, I made sure of that.
Yeah,
like
Donnie knew the history, and we've had such an interesting relationship, and here's a guy that I knew since 1972 when he became a member of Freddie Blassie's fan club, and then he started writing, and then he started, he became the vice president of the fan club, and then he invited me out to California for my first trip and the Battle Royal in '74. Stayed with Richard Dawson, the actor, and his kids. Got to see Andre the Giant get his hair cut, at the KCOP studios in Los Angeles. So, and then he came to my house. I returned the favor in the summertime of '74, and he spent a week with my family and myself. And then he booked himself to come back in 1975 and told me he was going to spend the entire summer with us. And they wound up throwing him out after a week.
It didn't work out.
I think the story's in my book, but my sister caught him. I'm not even going to get into it.
Oh my God! Did Donnie's story about the hot oil and mud ring any bells? Do you think Donnie was joking? Or
no, I wouldn't think Donnie was joking. Maybe Mike was going out. There was a lot of places like that, in any metropolitan area where you could go to hot oil wrestling and jello wrestling, it was titillating and all of that,
I remember at the time there was a lot of like tapes going around of like women with wrestling men, like kind of scantily in hotels and stuff.
Right.
Was Mike Lano one of the guys who was producing some of
those? No, not at all. No. Okay. He probably just went to a club where they featured this hot oil wrestling, and then I don't know what he was doing in Donnie's room that night, because Mike would always try to bunk with people to save a few bucks, But it wouldn't surprise me about the hot oil wrestling. And I do have a quick little side note story, which was based on the I don't even know if I brought it up 30 years ago. I guess we'll find out when the time comes. But we were doing the AAA out there, that big first show, that big extravaganza that sold out, turned away 7,000 people. And the night before, we went out. I was out with DDP and Jake the Snake and a few others. I don't remember their names. I don't know if Conan was there or Ron Scholar or whatever. But we went to a hot oil women's wrestling event. It was a regular club. And before you know it, I was told that I was going to be in a match against these two hot oil women wrestlers. And here I am. I'm like, 350 pounds. And I'm like, I don't want to do this. And they were like, they were goading me. We paid for it. You don't have to pay for it. We paid for it. And I did it. So I had these two girls in oil, like just beating the crap out of me. And there are two photographs that exist that no one will ever see unless I put them on eBay and someone could buy them for. And who wants to see me anyway? Marsh, I can't even describe how hilarious it was.
Just ridiculous. Now, that's not one of the matches you typically mention when you tell people you used to be a worker.
No,
it doesn't.
I did count the ring lights in that match as well, with two girls sitting on me.
You were no Andy Kaufman.
And I was all oiled up. And that's the thing. You were oiled up. And they couldn't find like a pair of regular trunks to fit me because I was so huge. So I wore this, it was almost like a tutu. It was like a sack. And I was lucky it didn't fall off. Anyway, the boys got a kick out of it. Jake and DDP certainly had fun with it.
Well, they got their money's worth.
They did. And I got a chance to go around the oil a little bit.
It's not the worst night of your life.
There's my sidebar story for the night.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So did Mike Lano, just out of curiosity, ever do anything in wrestling besides be lurking around and part of that one fan club?
A lot of pictures, for magazines. And
okay.
He, I think one of the photographers for CAC, and every picture's copyrighted and stamped by Mike Lano on the back, so he's been around for a long time. He said he started taking photos for the magazines in 1966, which is not true because I'm older than Mike, and in 1966 I was 9. So Mike was probably 5 or 6 years old, and he was a wrestling ringside photographer at the age of 5. It would be the youngest ringside wrestling photographer in history.
That's amazing. I'm a fan, big fan. As we keep going through it, this show made me laugh a lot, just in general. Outside of knowing about your hot oil wrestling, there was a lot of just weird, goofy stuff kind of going on.
Yeah, no artwork, by the way, on that hot oil women wrestling. So don't have any ideas about doing any drawings about that.
You got it.
Okay, sorry to interrupt.
You interviewed Sapphire, and I just thought it was nice. And it's a short interview. It's like 3.5 minutes. So I have the whole thing because I feel like that people talk about her, but she never really popped up in a lot of to talk about herself and what her time was like and what it was like. So I thought this was just kind of nice.
Cool. Yeah, let's give it a listen.
All right, let me give you the Sapphire. Here you go.
Thank you.
Good morning, dear. How are you?
Yes, how are you doing?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
That's the first time I've had the opportunity to speak with you.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Of course, all the fans up here in the Northeast remember your stint in the World Wrestling Federation.
Yes, sir.
As Sapphire, and you handled the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes.
Sure, I did my best.
Well, I wrestled Dusty once.
You did?
Yes.
I'll be doggone.
Back in 1978, he beat me in about 3 minutes.
Oh, that sounds like Dusty.
Sat on my head. Sat on my head to pin me.
Oh.
Ooh, it was ugly.
Oh, that was called a squash session.
Yes, it certainly was. I was squashed. But that must have been an interesting time for you.
It was. It was really a great experience, because being a fan for years and then to get a chance to start out with somebody like Dusty Rhodes, it was really great. Because as a fan, a lot of times, you don't agree with the wrestlers, and then when you don't agree with one, and then you find out that he's really your best friend,
Yeah.
And that's the way it was with him. He turned out he was one of my best friends because I depended on him, by not knowing the ropes and anything. I depended on him, and I really depended on him in the ring, and he was there.
Yeah, Dusty, of course. What was the most memorable experience you've had on the road with the WWF?
Oh, I'll say when I went off and got lost. That really just scared me to death. I'm out of town. I didn't know anybody, and I went to a store and came out the wrong way, and I'm in Canada, and I came out the wrong way, and and I'm saying, they're going to kill me. I don't know how I'm going to get back. And then I couldn't read my programs or my booking sheets, and I would go somewhere and I would go to the wrong place, and then I'd have to catch a limousine to get me back to where I was really supposed to be, And it would be $100 for limousine service that I would have to get. And
I'm sure Mr. McMahon didn't mind paying that bill.
You know what? He was really nice to me. He was really nice. He always, was a gentleman, and he understood. He understood that I was doing my best out there. I did my best, and I guess he understood that.
What are you doing now?
I'm a role model for the Board of Education in St. Louis. I work with drug and alcohol students with drug-related programs, and I do nursing homes. I go to nursing homes and sign autographs, and I go to hospitals. And my latest thing is that I'm learning how to do sign language so I can go to the deaf schools.
Well, you sound like you're doing some very, very good work.
Well, I love what I'm doing. I love my kids, And without people helping me as a kid when I came up, I wouldn't have made it the person that I am. So I figured maybe I can put a little bit of me in some of the kids that I meet.
Yeah. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you're happy with your life, and you had a nice run in the WWF there for a bit. And
yeah, I really did.
And, well, we wish you the best of luck in your new endeavors, and I appreciate you coming on to spend a few minutes with us today.
Thank you so much, and God bless you all.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, honey.
That was nice.
Yeah. Wholesome and everything. And I also was taking note of the idea, that Vince was so nice to her.
Yeah.
I mean, because I want to know your take on it. Because
at the time when they put her with Dusty, the way they had Dusty with the polka dots and the gimmick and putting Sapphire, who was also in the polka dots, I wasn't a fan of what they did to this legendary wrestler in the 90s. In the late 70s when he debuted, I mean, he's Dusty Rhodes, man. And so I thought they kind of demeaned him in a way with the polka dots and with Sapphire, who was a nice enough person, as we could tell from the interview, but I don't think it was the best fit for a valet and Dusty.
Yeah.
But nothing against her.
Oh, yeah. No, and like she said, she was doing the best she could, and they all treated her nicely, knowing that she was doing the best she could.
She had a run. It wasn't a long run. I'm just looking at her Wikipedia. She passed away. She passed away in 1996. She passed away 3 years after this, and she had worked in the business for a bit, and she made her debut in 1989 there. I wasn't there for a long time, but Wow, she died at a very young age. Very young age. Nice enough lady, though. I mean, it was good that you played that.
Yeah, really nice. I out of curiosity, because like you said, you didn't like the Dusty run, the polka dots, all that stuff. And I've always heard that Vince hates Dusty, right? And that this was all to mock him and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's a big part of me that like fails. Like, I mean, I wish someone hated me as much as Vince seems to hate the Rhodes, right? Like it didn't hurt Dusty's legacy. Like the polka dots have become iconic because Dusty's just that good. He's always kept Dusty working. His sons always had work as long as they wanted it. Even when Dustin left.
But look at the characters. Look at the characters that were, to be part of that. I mean, and you have to say yes. I mean, someone can't force you to do anything. But you look at Goldust, and you look at what they did with Cody, with the the gimmicks Stardust. That they put him in, Stardust, all of that, and you look at this push that they gave Cody, and I hope it's a long-term plan where he'll eventually win a title of some sort. But to build it up the way they did, and then to have him lose to Roman Reigns, that was you never know. You try to think into, and who knows? I mean, who knows? Who knows? The only person who knows is the guy with the e-dash, and he ain't talking.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just weird. I just think that it's such a fascinating dynamic. The belief that he hates them, but he's made them all so much money. Oh, yeah. Their characters have all become iconic in their own ways. Do we think the natural Dustin Rhodes would have ever become as iconic as Goldust became? I don't know. Like, it's just there's always a bunch of what ifs, right? But I just think that it makes the Dusty story even that much more fascinating.
Well, the character of Goldust, I mean, it did become iconic.
Yeah,
very much so, and it was the most bizarre character in wrestling at the time.
I mean, even as a kid watching it, that's why I was getting into it. I remember almost every Goldust match I ever saw.
Yeah. And he's a good worker, too. Yeah. Not only can he play the gimmick, but he can go in the ring.
And you can tell.
And he still can, even though he's retiring this year. He can go. Yeah. The whole family could go. I mean, you don't have that level of heritage and work rate and promo skills. It's in the DNA, and it all started with the son of a plumber, man.
Yeah. Just fascinating. Like you said, the man with the evil mustache knows the true story. We've heard what Bruce has had to say about it, but I really, even if Vince never wrote a book, but put out a short story on his emotions regarding the entire Rhodes family, that would be enough. I just want to know.
Yeah. Now he has the opportunity, since he controls his intellectual property. He's got his name. No one could do his life story but him. So maybe sometime in the near future we'll be able to get that autobiography, because there's certainly enough books now coming out, including the new one that's called Ringmaster.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's going to get pulled. You know what I mean? Now that he owns the rights to his story that way.
Well, it's out. Can't put. This is a major publisher. I mean, this is.
But you can stop publishing. I mean, look at Rocky Johnson's book that got shut down.
Yeah, but this is already out.
So was Rocky's. I know people who have it.
So how are they going to stop it now? What would
you just stop the forwardness of it. You stop any republishings, and you stop any current prints that haven't gone out. And you get them pulled from shelves from bookstores. Like, you can. I'm just saying it's possible.
Well, if there wasn't a lawsuit filed about this book now,
that's true. Yeah, then probably not.
It's not about money, because the Rocky Johnson book was about money. It wasn't about a story. It was about guys not getting paid who were involved with the book.
Gotcha. Yeah. Right.
And that's rare. That book is so rare now. Just a few copies were made available until they pulled it. Greg Oliver knows the story, and Scott Teal, obviously. I mean, there's people who know about that backstory, but fascinating stuff. But on the Vince books, they're out there, pal.
I wonder if that's when the Endeavor merger started happening. Actually, was when they were working on that movie. I remember the one of the creators was on some podcast and said, "Oh yeah, that got killed by Vince. Like we can't do it anymore." I wonder if that was the moment, if they had already done the deal back then. But who knows?
That whole deal is so fascinating to me.
Yeah. Let's see. Speaking of fascinating, 30 years ago, Don is talking about the convention having about 150 people there. So you were a little shy with your 50 guesstimate. And then he asked you specifically about your WrestleMania party. You talk about having a really good time. You talk about how a lot of the wrestlers did not like WrestleMania. And you remember Mike Sharp walking out. But right before you let Donnie go, I pulled this clip about you asking him about something because he's in Nashville.
Don, listen, you have a good time there?
Hello, John.
And where are you, Nashville?
Downtown Nashville.
See if you could get me some Patty Lovelace memorabilia.
I've been listening for her on the radio.
Yeah, she's to be on TNN tonight, I believe, on a Statler Brothers show.
As a matter of fact, we're about 3 or 4 miles away from TNN, and I'm looking out my window at Opryland, so everything's pretty well centrally located.
Wow.
All righty, John. Have yourself a good show.
Take care, Don.
Thank you, John.
Okay. And I mentioned Patty Lovelace, who's a country western star, and had the opportunity to manage her for about 4 years before she made it big. Story of my life. I was opening up TV Guide this week. You know, I picked the TV Guide up, and lo and behold, there is a story on Patty Lovelace in the TV Guide. And just irks me a little bit, because I even gave her that name, Jeff. Sitting here with James. I gave her that name, James. I should have copyrighted it. I should have pulled the Vince McMahon.
Patty Lovelace.
That wouldn't happen to be in your book, would it?
Yes. There's a whole chapter on Patty in the book, and here's if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a photograph of us in 1982. Here's a promo picture, 1982. Oh, wow. Yeah, this one is photographer George Napolitano.
Oh, wow.
And Patty is a legend, and Patty was just inducted. She will be inducted this year. They made the announcement last week that she's a member of the Country Music Hall of Fame, which is such an incredible honor for her.
Well deserved.
And she's a girl who changed my life, man. She changed my life, and what can I say? You know, it's kind of what, you know, it's a sad story in a lot of ways, but it's in my book. But I had worked for the Shelby Mets and met her at a nightclub. She was the house band there, and and I quit the job with the Mets so I could go manage her. And here's another picture of the band. The band was called Straight Up. And that was it. You know, I pulled it because I'm looking at a duffel bag filled of Patty Lovelace archives today.
Wow.
Because there's some people that are kind of like, you know, do you have any early pictures of her? You know, so I said, yeah, I got plenty.
You had one or two.
Got one or two. Got about 100 cassette tapes of her singing rock and roll songs. Because when I worked with her, she wasn't a country artist; she was a rock artist. Wow. She did covers of Journey, Pat Benatar, and Linda Ronstadt, Bonnie Raitt. It was rock and roll, man. A lot of Southern rock too. 38 Special and Styx and Molly Hatchet, and yeah. So it was a game changer for me, and I was happy to say that I spent 4 years, and I think my claim to fame, or what I did for Patty, she had been in Nashville as a teenager. I know this is off topic, but it's 30 years ago I talked about her. So it was she had been in Nashville as a teenager, and she was mentored at the age of 13 and 14 by Porter Wagner, Dolly Parton, the Wilburn brothers, and signed a publishing deal. And then she met a guy who was the drummer in a band, and she was 17. They married, and he took her out of Nashville and stopped her career cold. and took her to his little hometown in Kings Mountain, North Carolina, right next to Shelby, where I work. And he had her play all these little illegal clubs. There's a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, dark stuff. And that's when I entered her life. So seeing how talented she was and wondering why she was in this little shit-ass club called the Stardust Lounge as a house band, I'd go there every week and got a chance to talk to her, get to know her. And I was like, well, don't you still have a dream? Like, because you're a star. I mean, she goes, well, I'm married now. That dream's over. And she was 23 at the time, and I was 23 at the time. And I was like, you're freaking 23 years old. So I think what I did for Patty more than anything else was I got her to believe that it could happen for her.
It wasn't too late.
That it wasn't too late. And the rest of the story's in the book.
Yeah. It's just awesome. I know that I've known about your connection to Patty, obviously for a while, but it was nice to hear you bring her up here. I like curmudgeon John at times. Story of my life. A little too late, you know.
I say that today.
Right. That's what I mean. But yeah, I just wanted to play that and get maybe a little nugget from Patty.
And, you know, God put you on this earth to do whatever. I don't know if you're whoever out there is a believer of faith or not believer in faith, but for some reason, you know, I was selected to be the person to open doors and connect people with each other and make things happen. And Madusa texted me, and I want to bring this up when we interview her. She texted me something last week, which I never heard before, a term. She goes, you are and I'm going to get her to explain it because I was like, oh, maybe that's what I am. Because from Kelsey Ballerini to Vince Russo to all of this whole list. And now John Gibbons, you know, working with him, podcasting, getting him a book deal. And John was famous and he was very successful, but he had become someone who was just not doing too much except for some scouting. And then, you know, he was such a loved person in Canada, and what a story and how people revered him, that I was able to convince him to say, let's get you a book. And we have the podcast, and now he's on the bestseller list. And our podcast that we do each, and it's released every Monday, called The Gibby Show. It's baseball, and it's in the top 3 podcasts in Canada. So, yeah. So anyway, it's fun. I've had a fun life, man. I dig it. I dig what I've done, and it's been I've been put down here, and it's been a blessing to be able to work with all these incredible people.
Yeah, it's amazing. Because I mean, even in like my life, I still think about some of my favorite times just being around different local bands that didn't really become much, right? And some of those times, and I just think that
it's a tough business.
Well, there's that, but just like when you think about when I was your age doing that stuff for like local people, they didn't become. Imagine if they had. Like, you've got all these connections to people who went on to become doing these amazing things, and the pride I feel for them doing small things, like, it can only be amplified in your life, you know. But yeah, you put over how you're going to have Madusa on tonight, which you will.
Which we
even
will.
30 years later.
Yeah.
And you talk about Dennis Knight is coming up right after these ads.
Dennis.
Right before you bring on Dennis, you tell a story that I just could not stop giggling about and had to tell my fiance about. So I play that because it goes right into Dennis Knight. Dennis's interview is very short.
Yes.
I kept all of it. So this is that clip.
Okay.
Yes, we're back here with the program. And, Bruce, you're drinking that delicious cup of 7-Eleven coffee, I noticed. And unfortunately, I was running a little late this morning, and I am craving a cup of coffee from 7-Eleven. I usually stop in there. And actually, this young lady that works in the 7-Eleven, her name is Patty. She is a wrestling fan, and she was telling me interesting story this week when she was into wrestling a few years back, and every Saturday morning her cat used to wake her up just when wrestling was going on television, and the cat would sit there and watch TV wrestling with her and Hulk Hogan, and she said the cat used to just follow the action in the ring. I wish I could train my cat to do that, except for my cat, all it does is just dribble and slobber all over me. Of course, we've had the cat that I have in my possession has been on loan from my sister Donna for the last 7 years, and she's not allowed to keep it in her house. And we unfortunately have that the pleasure of taking care of a 300-pound tabby cat. I'm sitting here with Dennis Knight. Dennis is a longtime listener of this program, and Dennis has broken into the world of professional wrestling, has started training, and has also had a few matches. And Dennis, thanks for stopping in today, and a pleasant surprise. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, John.
Tell us a little bit about what's going on in your career. Now, you just got started in the business.
Yeah, I got started a couple months back and had a couple matches already. One battle royal. It was fun in the royal, seeing it was my first time in a match.
Now, how did you actually get hooked up as far as deciding this is what you wanted to do?
It's just something I've been thinking about, and I just decided to go for it. And so far, it's been good for me.
And you're out there working, trying to, on the independent scene, breaking in. A lot of interesting characters you got to deal with.
Yeah, a lot of interesting and weird characters.
Yeah, that's what this business is all about. Interesting and weird. But I saw a videotape you'd given me a few weeks back, and you really got a lot of potential. You really do. Almost a very fast-paced style, and, I was really impressed with what I saw. And I think that you got makings of a good career.
Thanks.
But where do you see yourself, let's say, in a year or two from now? Are you going to take it slow, or are you going to go out there soliciting? Because you got another job, which is a real good one.
Right. Well, I'm going to try to take it real slow and see how it starts. Slow point. And then if it goes real fast, then I'll go see what else I can get into, what other federations right now.
So right now you're just getting in, easing into the business, and hopefully you're going to make a good go at it.
Yeah.
Well, whatever we can do to help you, we're here, and I give you my full endorsement right now.
Yeah.
So whatever that means, my full endorsement, right, Bruce? With the Knicks cap on today. Not the Ranger cap. The Ranger cap has been put away till next year.
Or did he burn it?
Or did you burn it?
You were giving me a rough time about the Rangers the whole time.
Yeah. I was not a big hockey fan, but that's interesting stuff. First on the cat. Let's talk about the cat.
The 300-pound slobbering cat.
Yeah, the cat was pretty big, orange tabby, and it would just drool. I mean, there would be the saliva just come out of its mouth when you would pet it, if it would let you, because it usually would try to attack you. But my sister got this thing as a kitten. I think it was 1981 or 82, and cat lived a long life. My sister named the cat Child. That was the cat's name, Child. She'd say, Child. My sister used to name the pets in the household very interesting names. We had a cat previous to Child that she just called THE. That was the cat's name. So Child was became the love child, and Child, we had him for like many, many years. But the cat was a big, fat cat that would just drool. I mean, it was just, I can't explain it, but it was beloved in our family. Child the cat.
Did Donna ever get the cat back, or did it always live with you?
It stayed with us to the end. Yeah, she never got the cat back. And Donna was living, she had an apartment with her husband, and the landlord didn't allow pets or whatever at the time. And by the time Donna got a house with my brother-in-law, the cat was buried, so to speak. So anyway, and as far as Dennis goes, Dennis was there was a family friend, and this was the family friend's boyfriend. Great guy, easygoing guy, wanted to be in the business, and he was able to work some matches. And I even put him on the convention card of 1993. So he's on that videotape, Dennis Knight. So really, really cool guy. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, well, we're friends on Facebook. I know that. And he might be one of the listeners to the show every week. So if he is, how you doing, Dennis?
Oh, very
Great
cool.
guy. I really remember all the good things you did back then. And just a really, really, really good person.
And just for clarity's sake, this is not the Dennis Knight who went on to become Godwin or Midian. This is a different Dennis Knight.
No, this was just a guy who had maybe a handful of matches in the New York area. Didn't work out for him on the wrestling front, but he had a great job, So hopefully Dennis is fine and doing well.
Awesome. Perfect. I just want to make sure I was clear because you did encounter so many people in their young stages. It wouldn't have been the worst or big of a stretch. Right. Man, I had a cat so fat once. This is real. I had a bunch of cats. One that was so big, it would sit on the top of the couch. And after about a week or two, that top couch cushion was just permanently indented forever. It never got its shape back. It was amazing.
Cats are cool, though.
Yeah. And I also just thought it was funny, the 7-Eleven coffee bit, just because...
With Patty, Peppermint Patty.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's what I used to call her.
You remember her?
Patty. I remember her, like, she came to visit me in Nashville once. I took her backstage at the Grand Ole Opry, and she met Brad Paisley. I mean, she was somebody that back then I kind of had a little bit of a crush on, you know?
Yeah.
But there was an age disparity. I think I was like 7 years older, 8 years older than her or whatever. And she helped at some of my conventions, and I was smitten with her for a little while, you know, and then she actually came down to Nashville and visit me for a weekend.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah, and she was like big country music fan, so I said, "Listen, I'll take you to the Opry." She loved Brad Paisley. She got to meet Brad, and she got to meet little Jimmy Dickens too when he was still alive.
That's cool.
Yeah, that had to be about 12 years ago that she came visit.
I also feel like 7-Eleven coffee in New York is, I don't know if people understand how good it is. Because when I lived in New York, it was one of my favorite coffees.
The best.
It is. It's so good in New York. I don't know why.
We have 7-Eleven in Nashville now, and here where they have it in Tennessee, which is so awesome.
Yeah. Let's see. You put over Bruno making an appearance in Westchester, and you go over the WrestleMania results, and you get so annoyed at Jim Ross saying that he could smell the chloroform from here. Like, just ridiculous.
Again, I wouldn't let it go, would I?
No. You were super annoyed. It sounded like you did not like this. I mean, nobody seemed to really like this one. It was just chaotic. Every finish was weird. You kept going on about Hogan's eye. This was interesting because you did mention that you had already heard that potentially Randy Savage had punched him. So the rumors were already out.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if...
I don't know. I can't dive into it because I don't really... I remember it, but I don't remember if that was the reason that was kind of confirmed and validated that he got slugged by Savage.
Yeah. And literally the three things that you do, because you said that it was potentially he was in a skiing accident, that he got punched by Randy Savage, or that he was in just some other generic fight. Mm-hmm. Those are still the only three things I've seen battered about that no one seems to be able to lock in either. So the rumors 30 years ago, still the same rumors now. So let's see. You talked about seeing Iron Sheik versus Nikolai Volkov at the Mania party.
Yeah, Maccabee Mania.
Yes. And you said the Iron Sheik's belly button looked like a Frisbee.
It did. I mean, that guy was like, his shape. I mean, with the gut and the belly button popping out, and the handlebar mustache, and just and it still is. He's still around. He was such a character.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and he still is a character. I love it.
Jabroni.
Adam from Levittown had a sentiment that most of your callers had, which was that they liked a lot of the matches and they liked the look of the show, but they just didn't like almost any of the finishes. Yeah. And you said, yeah, there was no big 4-star matches. You did put over that WWF had TV tapings, and Lightning Kid had 2 tryout matches against Louis Spicoli. Let's see.
Yeah, because they brought him in after that, didn't they?
Yep.
Because Raw was already on the air.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then you guys go back and forth about if you're going to be able to meet up over the Paramount. You've got like a 3rd or 4th row seat, and he's in 200 section, so it's not going to happen, I don't think. But...
Now, is that show next week?
Yes.
Looks like we have to get Anthony on the show again.
We're going to need Anthony. We're going to need his expertise.
Got to come on. He needs to. He's chomping at the bit to review that Paramount
I
card.
Can't wait. You do speculate Sting might win the title there. And you talked about how Cactus Jack appearance on Howard Stern got canceled because Howard decided to go to Philadelphia, but that Fred the Elephant Boy was plugging your show on Howard that week. That was cool.
That's very nice. It's good advertising.
Really cool. And then he had Rick Rude on. Rick Rude was on Howard Stern. So that was interesting.
Yeah, that is interesting. That had to be a WCW play that Fred hooked up, and maybe they gave Fred some tickets, or who knows.
That could be.
Fred was an important character back then, man. He had the end to Howard.
That's awesome. It brings us. I didn't pull too many clips from this. This is my last clip from this episode because I want to make sure we had enough time to maximize our time with Madusa when we got her here.
Yes.
So I'm going to play this clip and then I'll kind of give you a rundown of kind of what else was happening. But a lot of this show was Mania just happened and everyone wants to complain about it. A lot of the finishes, you guys were unsure of how this was qualification or not, people clarifying. So there was a lot of that. But this clip specifically is one of those. The caller is clarifying why HBK was counted out when you thought he should have been disqualified because he pulled the ref out. And then you guys talk a little bit about Cactus Jack, and I thought this was interesting.
The number of call will go to Don from Sayville. Don, you're next.
Hey, John, how you doing?
Doing okay.
I wanted to clarify something for you. The reason that Shawn Michaels was counted out of the ring on at WrestleMania was because the referee was just reaching 10 on his count when Shawn Michaels grabbed his feet.
Oh, is that what happened?
And pulled him out of the ring. So that's why he was counted. He was considered counted out of the ring. As far as the rest of the show, aside from Hogan, not much really going on. You know,
Yeah.
I just really wasn't appreciative of all the, confusion.
What do you think of Jim Ross's performance?
I liked that. I think that was very good. I'm a big Jim Ross fan.
Yeah. Yeah, he's the premier play-by-play man in this business. It was just a little weird to see him sitting next to Randy Savage and Bobby Heenan, and all the shenanigans are going with those guys.
Right, you're watching the WrestleMania sign, but yet you're hearing Jim Ross, and you're going, whoa.
Yeah, the only time I felt comfortable watching him was when he was calling the Steiners Head Shrinkers match, because they had some great brawls in the NWA.
Yeah, that was another really bad match too. I thought the Steiner, I think they're just afraid to get into that Frankensteiner, because you see every time Scott's been missing it a lot, or the timing just hasn't been there.
Well, a lot of the guys who he's doing that move on also they're afraid to take that move.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Scott's fault, but it just makes it look bad.
Yeah.
That whole finish. So what else is going on in the old world of wrestling? Any surprises we think here?
For what? For WWF or WCW?
For either or.
Well, Cactus Jack, I'm going to go out on the limb and say he might have a victory next Wednesday night, hopefully against Rick Rude. Also, a bit of news regarding Cactus Jack. Now, this is a serious situation. Cactus had, for the WCW TV taping Monday in Atlanta, Georgia, took on Van Vader in a match. And from all accounts that I've received, it was a 4-star brawl. But Cactus got messed up pretty bad. He got 17 stitches above the eye, 7 below it, a broken nose, a concussion, and his jaw is out of line.
Oh, so it was a regular week for him.
It was a regular week. I don't know about that. He had to be hospitalized. And
Cactus Jack is one of the best wrestlers I've ever even had the pleasure of talking to. I just met him. I was at a card a long time ago over at Brentwood Ross Sounding High School there.
Uh-huh.
And I was over there, and I was walking out towards those, where they had the food and stuff, and Cactus Jack was just walking in. And I just walked up to him. I said, "Hey, Cactus, what's happening?" He goes, "Yo, what's happening?" And he sat there and he talked to me for a couple minutes, gave me his autograph. He was, great.
He's a great guy. We're going to run. Thanks for your call.
John. Have a good one.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
661-1440 and Cactus, talking to him this week, he had taken 30 shots, approximately 30 shots to the face by Van Vader. And when you see Van Vader in a squash match and see what he does to one of the guys breaking into the business, he lays those in there.
Oh, yeah, it must hurt.
Yeah, Cactus was all messed up, and hopefully he'll be up to par this coming Wednesday night at the Paramount. But he certainly was injured, and now that match is supposed to take place. You'll be scheduled to see it.
Tonight?
No, that'll be a week from tonight. But from other estimates I've gotten from people is that it could be so violent. It could be so violent that they may censor it.
I was just checking something out here, Marsh. That was show 4/24/93, Cactus injury versus Vader. I think that's when he was power slammed on the concrete.
Yeah.
But he was getting the shit kicked out of him.
Yeah. I hear that he's got 17 stitches, seven more stitches, broken nose, concussion, jaw misaligned. And I mind him like, Cactus had to go to the back being like, Vader, I thought you liked me. You know what I mean? Like,
but he didn't. Mick didn't care. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, even though he, got the shit kicked out of him. I mean, he comes back for more, then he has this injury, and then, then what happens in another match with Vader over in Germany? There goes the ear. I
mean, the ear didn't come off because Vader punched him in the face.
No, but it was like, he didn't have a good, fun times in the ring against Vader.
Yeah. That's just intense.
Believable as it looked and was, the guy messed him up.
So do we get Cactus on next week to talk about this a little bit?
The 424 show, which is, this is 10, and next week is the show where we review the Paramount, and we have Jimmy Cornette on, Lanny Poffo, and a referee named Henry Terranova. And then in 2 weeks, Cactus Jack injury with Vader, and Paulie in the studio. Again.
Right. Well, hopefully Cactus talks a little bit about it.
Yeah, that would be good. We'll find out as soon as I put these freaking tapes in the machine and start listening to them after 30 years.
It'd be so good. Let's see. You guys speculate with Bob Point Pleasant about if Sting's going to be the fourth horseman. You said Sting had not been mentioned at all, but you've heard a bunch of other names. That it could be Sid, but it's softball season, so
right. He just loved that softball Sid.
And you do say that you think the Power Twins are about to go to WCW.
What was I smoking?
Yeah, right. Like they didn't make it, but
you had a feeling they weren't very likable.
So even if they had a foot in the door, they also have a foot on their ass, huh?
Right. It's like they probably didn't perform well in job interviews.
Yeah, I have a feeling they probably did the match and they liked him, and then they brought him into the office to talk, and they went, you know what? If this is how it's going to go. You talk about the second Doink a lot being Steve Kern. You talk about Hogan and Beefcake as a tag team. You are making fun of them talking about the titanium steel mask. You called it the titanium screw job finish. No one takes falls like Sherry. And then she's about to go into a program with Luna, which you're excited about. But
Yep.
Someone brought up a good point here. They said Hogan has this great image as a positive role model, but when was the last time he won a match in a legitimate way? And he just had the belt handed to him again. And that he's going to have to start winning matches legitimately. And then the guy asked you how to pronounce your last name. I thought that was an interesting topic, just because people are talking about that too with Roman's long reign. Like we're talking about Roman being 1,000 days, and is he going to break Bruno's record? And I've seen people speculate that he could be like the next big long time face. But
yeah, I think he won't beat Bruno's record. That's impossible. They're not going to keep the belt on him for 7 years.
You don't think they'll hold off for another 5?
No. But I could see it. I could see him holding on to it for another year or two. I really could.
Yeah, me too. I just don't know I don't know if at this point in time what's different between 1,000 days and 2,000 days when it comes to your marketability later. You know what I mean? Like, not that he's capped, but what's going to be different by those two numbers?
It's going to be an interesting thing to see play out over this past WrestleMania they just finished to next year, and what they're going to do and what they do with Cody. There's a lot of unanswered questions there right now on top.
Yeah. And he gets a lot of flack, Roman, for not winning matches legitimately very often. So it's neat to hear that's becoming very prevalent here 30 years ago with Hogan.
Yeah.
Because we did see the crowd turn on Hogan.
Yes. Yes.
So,
but the bloodline is still hot.
Oh, yeah. Yep. He's not there yet by any means.
No.
But just interesting conversation. Yeah, there's not a whole lot left after that.
Yeah.
I mean, you give Bruce a bunch of flack about the Rangers again. I guess they had a really bad loss, and you just couldn't.
Yeah, I just was needling him, twisting the knife in, twisting.
Yeah. And Les from East Meadow calls and asks, whatever happened to Jerry Graham? And you said he's still wrestling and he looks horrible. So I thought that was pretty cool.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Dr. Jerry, involved in the first wrestling show I ever watched on TV.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yeah. He was wrestling. I think it was Antonio Pugliese or somebody like that. And Bruno was supposed to be there. Bruno wasn't there. Dr. Jerry Graham is beating the crap out of, it's either Miguel Perez or it's 60 years ago. So
Yeah.
I really remember. I was 6. And then all of a sudden there's a ruckus from the back, and here comes a gentleman in a suit and tie with 2 suitcases in a hand, and it's Bruno. And he jumps in the ring, and he starts hitting Dr. Jerry Graham on the head with the suitcases. Graham gets busted open, big time, blood pouring down his face. The announcer's Ray Morgan, Washington, D.C. They do a post-match interview. And Ray Morgan is like, well, Dr. Jerry Graham, you need a doctor yourself. I don't need a doctor. I'm my own doctor. And I don't know why it stood out. I watched it, and I was like 6 or 7 years old, and I still remember it like it was yesterday.
That's awesome.
But he was big back in this time period. I don't know. I think he died not too long after that. Just huge.
Yeah, you said
he was Vince McMahon's favorite wrestler. Vince McMahon Jr.'s favorite wrestler.
Was Dr. Jerry Graham?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And that was the final caller. He also had a wrestling review magazine. He had the first couple. You said they were worth about $200. You should bring them down to the convention that you have this year so we can sell them or sell them to you. And then he does ask how Dino Bravo died and then how Kerry died. And then you go, well, on that somber note, thanks for your call.
I guess I had enough.
Yeah. You're so like, we were having such a fun time. And now, all right.
We're talking about murders and suicides.
Yeah.
It's a nice way to end the show. And then we talk about kids bowling. So,
yes, you do talk about Farmingdale Lanes, and you, again, are not going to be there. Like you, there was something going on there.
I was over
it. You were over it. But that was the end of Pro Wrestling this week, and that brings us to Pro Wrestling Spotlight.
Yes.
With Madusa. She's there for the full hour, man. You start off real quick with Donny Laible, let her know because he's on a payphone, and then you get right into it.
Yep. Well, I mean, at this time, it's time for that second half of the show, and it's going to be something that everybody loves. And as we promised, we have a very special guest joining us today. 30 years ago this week, she made her debut on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight radio show in New York on WEVD. And it's a pleasure, and it's my honor to introduce the best-selling author, the former and all-time and current women's champion. She is a champion of the monster truck world. She's a dear friend, and direct from Florida, I want to bring on my friend Madusa.
Yeah, heyo.
There she is.
That heyo is for Marsh.
Marsh is with us as well. I mean,
he is.
I think you know Marsh.
I think I do. Yeah. Marsh, can I just see your face so I can punch you?
Yeah.
Hi.
Come here. I'm all ready to go. I'm all dressed up, ready to go.
Too bad I can't grab him like this, so it looks like I'm grabbing him and just pick him up off his chair.
Right.
Oh, that'd be... I need a green screen for that.
Yeah. Well,
okay.
Figure that out and get back to us with that.
Yeah, get back to us. Great shirt, by the way.
Yeah.
It is good. Look at that.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Trash talk action. Yeah. YouTube.com/Queen of Carnage.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And look what I got. I got this copy sent to me direct from the author.
Imagine that. I wonder who that is. Oh, that's my twin.
And
that's my sister.
You sent me a text before we get into what we
God,
did
here we go.
Ago. You sent me a text last week, and I never heard this phrase before, and you called me a hub.
Yes, you're a hub.
So for those out there who don't know what a hub is,
Right, Marsh?
He's
a great hub.
Before.
Yeah. Yeah. From the
You're
tech
kidding.
world, it's the one thing that splits off all the other connectors. It's the centerpiece where all the connectors trace back.
You're the conduit. You're the conduit that makes shit happen.
That was very nice for you to say that, because sometimes I feel I am a connector sometimes. And
we used to say connector, you and I. It's like, what else did we say? And then I'm like, oh my God, he's a hub. That's what he is. And I need to explain it to him.
Yeah, that's very cool.
They're very valuable. Yeah. And it's people that are good people, and they don't, you do things because you want to. Like when you introduced me to, I don't know if it was ECW Press or Greg first, but
both.
Oh, okay.
I think I sent an email to Michael and copied you, Holmes, and then Greg got you together with him, and then all of a sudden, the wheels were spinning, and they wanted to do the book, and you got the book, and now it's here. It's selling. It's a gorgeous book.
It's beautiful, by the way, and I get so many compliments on how well the book is put together. The biggest compliment I get on the book is when people have read the book, they say, hands down, that they actually feel like I'm talking to them.
Yeah.
Like I'm actually like speaking to them in conversation, and it was really nice. I'm like, wow. Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Greg.
You and Greg Oliver did a fabulous job. Forward by Paul Heyman.
Oh, yeah, that guy, too.
Better than that. I mean, my goodness.
That guy.
On the back of the book, Mick Foley, Billy Corrigan.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, man.
And there's a lot of other people I got, that I received blurbs from that, we're going to use on the website, or we'll use later on in when the audiobook comes out. I just sealed the deal on that. So I think I'll be recording in Tampa for the audiobooks.
You doing, they do with Tantor Media or something? Tantor? Or is it, there's a few companies that do it.
Yeah. I don't know. Audio. I don't know.
Yeah, because we're doing the Gibby project, the John Gibbons book. He's recording his audiobook next week in Houston.
Oh, is he already?
Well, they wanted it done before the book came out, but he's been busy, and we do the podcast every Monday, and he's up in Canada promoting the book, and this was the time he had, and the Blue Jays are playing in Houston next week, so he's killing two birds with one stone.
The Blue Jays, I do know that name. That's a very popular
Toronto Blue
name.
Jays. What a great baseball team.
Wait a minute. What about the Minnesota Twins?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Whatever. What's his name? The guy that the Mets signed, and then the ankle was screwed up, and then they pulled out of the deal. Korea.
Yeah. What's that?
Carlos Correa.
What was that? What about when they did win the World Series? They did win the World Series,
Yeah. When?
90s.
Right. Mets haven't won since 86, so, that's my misery index is very
Speaking of baseball, look at all them caps behind you. You little baseball mark there, John.
Well, that's my set for the Gibby show.
Oh, of course. No. We're going to blame it on... Okay, we're going to blame it on...
I had to take all my wrestling pictures down because they wanted, like, baseball pictures in back of me instead of all the wrestling pictures, so I had to...
Oh, but you didn't change them out for me. I feel slighted.
Well, I don't change them every week, depending on what show I...
You should.
I'm not. Are you kidding me?
That's too much work.
I already got holes in the walls here. You're not supposed to put holes in the walls.
You got holes in the head. Two in your ears.
Everything.
Yeah.
But listen, we're going back to 1993 today.
We're going to go back to the 90s again.
Yeah, you debuted on the Pro Wrestling Spotlight for the very first time on April the 10th, 1993.
I did not.
30 years ago this week.
Prove it. Yeah.
And you sounded so different.
Yeah.
Mm.
And but you were, we'll get into it. I'm not going to put any spoilers out here because you haven't heard this stuff in 30 years. And I
was probably very laid back. I don't know because I was very, I mean, I just know myself, my interviews, it would be like very careful. And it was 93, did you say?
93.
So it was right when I kind of got back from Japan.
Yeah.
And so you learn to be quiet when you were in Japan. So it's still kind of filtered over. And then I think I was in WCW at that time.
You were just leaving there. Yeah.
This is right as you left WCW and right before you went back to Japan. or you were planning on going back to Japan. It sounded like you were unsure if that was going to happen.
Yeah.
So it was between.
Okay.
And I think we met. Did we meet first time ever? I think. Did you work for Joel Goodhart in Philadelphia? You did a couple of those shows.
Yep. Yes.
I think that's where I first met you. And
when did we do our gimmick? When did we go overseas?
93. So, yeah, so I might have met you in 90, 91. We might have exchanged information. And then I know I reached out to you a couple of times, and we were never able to get you on the show because you were traveling. You were in WCW. It was difficult. And at this time, we had connected, and I was in the middle of putting together that tour of Southeast Asia. Mm-hmm. And then, you know, we talked and you agreed to do the show, and it was a big hit with the listeners. And then I met you for the first time in person in Tampa when we were cutting promos for the IWAS tour. And I found a couple of pictures from that very first time I met you. So
you're kind of smirking. So this ought to be interesting.
Marsh, you have that picture? Or do we wait?
You have one of them?
Oh, I can put them up. I'll put them up. I'm just going to take.
Because for anyone watching on YouTube, of course, you can see this.
Yeah.
I think we looked very happy sitting on that balcony having some beverages. And I know you rode in on that monster motorcycle that you had at the time. Was it a Harley?
Harley. Probably, yeah. It was my 92 Softail.
Yeah.
How about we do this? Let's play the opening.
Let's play the opening of the show.
And when we come back from the opening, we'll ask you about it, and I'll bring up those photos.
Okay. Why don't we go back 30 years? Let's go back in time.
Madusa, are you there?
I'm here.
Boy, it's a pleasure to bring you on the program.
Well, thank you. It's the first time I have been on this program. It's a pleasure. Thanks a lot, John.
Well, it's been a long time coming, and I've been a fan of yours for a long time, an admirer of everything you've done in the business, and you've certainly made a lot of headway for women athletes in this country and around the world with just your extraordinary skills.
I like to believe so.
Yes. So right now you're not affiliated with any major company. You'd recently left WCW, and that is something that is really, in my opinion, I did not agree with the move there. Can you explain to us, of course, most of our listeners listening, we're going to get into a little bit of a background as far as what you've done in your career, but the fans that are listening to this program are most familiar with you in WCW. What happened to cause the departure of Madusa from that company?
Well, there was a number of things. First of all, what I feel is most important was my personal feeling. I gave the whole thought a global view, and I looked at what was happening with Madusa, where she was going, and the status at the time. First of all, John, you made a comment saying you don't agree with the departure. Why not?
Well, because it takes you out of the national spotlight, you know, and we got accustomed and used to seeing you on television each week.
A certain way, right?
No. Actually, we appreciated it, me personally, when you first entered the company and you were competing. Right. And then there was that situation where I've read about, and well, there's been rumors that once you did that cross-body block off the top rope onto Michael P.S. Hayes, which was one of the most spectacular moves I've ever seen, that it maybe shook some people up behind the scenes and said, this girl is, she's better than a lot of the guys we got working in here. So we better get her out of the ring and put her in a more customary role for women in this country, which is absurd in the first place. But that's kind of what happened.
Right. So yeah, you. I agree with you to a certain extent as far as leaving WCW. I mean, there's a lot of people that think I was absolutely bananas to leave WCW. Probably because of the income. I mean, I left a really nice 6-digit income. But to me, that wasn't important. Don't get me wrong, making money is very important. But I was stifled in my position. I excelled at the beginning, and I felt that I was kept back. Now, there were people rooting for me in the office that wanted me to go a certain direction, that could see Madusa bloom in certain areas and could foresee her in a very profitable, marketable area. Her future would or should have been brighter than it was.
Interesting.
Yeah, I would say the voice. I mean, your voice and my voice, we all change as we.
Absolutely.
as we get older or just change with age. I think a lot of the tonnage, I think there's a lot of confidence there, but yet I was green still. I feel that I was still sassy, which I am now. And I think that when I speak now, there's words, I think about my words before I say them, hopefully more so better. And I love how I still am sort of the same. I just wrote down notes here as it went on and just kind of tickled me, especially about the part about Michael PSAs. And yeah.
Well, that's accurate though, isn't it? That once you did that crossbody, then it was like, holy shit, she's better than almost everybody in the back. So let's put her in a more traditional role at the time. And we all had heard about how great you were, and to get the opportunity to see you, and then them kind of say, all right, let's reel it back with her because she's too good.
Well, I mean, is it really too good, or is it because I was good? But I mean, for a woman in that era, it outshined a few, situations and probably the storylines. So they had to stifle me, as I said. And that's exactly what happened. It was my whole career, John. I mean, everywhere I went, even, in WWF at the time, or WWE now, that, when Scott Hall came out and said, hey, Deuce, can you and Bull kind of scale it back a bit, because the boys, they really didn't want to follow you. So the same stuff from WCW to WWF. And, I didn't accept no for an answer. So. Yeah, I thought it was cute. What a little, I like it so far.
Yeah, it's fun to look back, and everybody that we've had on the show who have heard their interviews from 30 years ago are all kind of like, wow. It's always a wow moment for somebody.
You have a gold mine, John. I think what you have here is more than you realize. It's a freaking gold mine. And replaying these and doing this with the talent is great.
I think
gosh, there's so much here
too. There's a lot of things that you mentioned that you still stand by in every way. Like, it's not like you were wrong back then. It was like you knew a long time ago what needed to happen. One of the things you said that I thought was really interesting, because this is prior to you working in the WWF. You said some people thought you leaving was banana. That sounds like a Pat Patterson thing to me.
Right. Banana. He said that a lot, didn't he?
A banana.
Yeah, the way he said it with that French inflection.
Yeah.
I know nothing. Oh, you guys. Oh, my gosh. There's always a swerve with people in wrestling. They're always thinking that there's a connection, but it was banana.
No, I just thought that the term, the way you said it was cute. As Marsh pointed out, it sounded very Patterson-like.
And isn't that funny how Greg knew Pat? And...
Right.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, I think we started off in a really serious. Everyone was curious about your departure from WCW and wanted to know what was going on next with you. And I was like, for me personally, putting together my first big tour overseas, I was like, if I can get Madusa on this tour, that to me is it's dreamlike, because of how much I respected you.
I think you paid me well too.
Yeah, everyone got paid really well on that tour. It was a good tour. It was a fun tour. It was a
fun tour. I got paid well. It was a great experience. And
it's an interesting part of the country. I mean, when you go to Hong Kong and Southeast, the Singapore and the Philippine Islands, and it was cool, and our private island. But going down to Florida to tape those promos before we get into the next segment of the radio show, we met for the first time, and Paul E. was down there.
Oh my gosh.
Paul E. came on the tour with us, and he was kind of coordinating the promos with the production team. And I think Paul E. actually snapped that picture, our first picture together.
Right here.
Oh, yeah, that's how I always looked. You guys, John,
the other
you're so cute.
This one, got your feet up.
We were chilling.
John, why didn't you, I wish we could have had this interview earlier. It would have helped my book.
Well, you always had the invite. You were so busy. You know, you always had an open invitation.
No,
here.
but it's the anniversary of 30 years, so I get it.
Yeah, well, that's the point of it too. I mean, that's kind of like when.
But I'm telling you, you just dinged a few things in my head. Wow. Oh well, it'll be in my second and third book. So.
Yeah, write it down now so you don't forget what that.
Yeah.
No, I'm going to go back and listen to the whole thing.
Yeah.
This is fantastic, John.
And send her the whole link for the entire show so she has that for her archives as well, Marsh.
Yeah.
Not just that. I want to listen to the whole interview without,
Yeah, the whole
interruption.
show. The original show. The original broadcast. Yes. That's what I wanted to send you.
That'd be great. All right. So that photo you think Paul took?
He definitely took it because he was the only one there with us. Yeah.
Oh, my God. But, and something on that picture right there is that it's still to this day. It's like the only time I wear makeup is like I never wore makeup. Like I was just that girl. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I held true to myself, and it just, gosh, it makes me feel good as a person. As a human being, that I lived by my standards. Oh, yeah. I walked, whatever. Yeah.
And your standards were clear. And one of the reasons why you ended up leaving WCW, the next clip we do have is a little over 3 minutes where you talk about the chaos of going through 3 different leaderships. And then the meeting you had with, I believe it was Watts by the time that you ended up deciding you were going to go.
Now, who are the 3 leaderships? Do I mention them in there?
Yes, you do.
Okay, great, because I can't remember right now.
Oh,
yeah. Amongst that, in the first year we did the negotiation, and I believe when I first was hired, it was with Jim Hurd, and then Kip Fry came in, and he's the one that okayed the contract, and then Bill Watts came in. So I had three supervisors in. When I was there, just in a year.
Yeah, that was like in almost a 6-month period. Went from her to Fry to Watts, and it still seems like the company's it's almost like a ship but without a captain.
Yeah, well, someday. Someday I'm sure they'll find the direction.
I hope so.
And what I did is in the conversation, I asked, Bill and I had a meeting, and I just asked him more or less, where do you see Madusa? What do you want from Madusa? And et cetera, et cetera. And I just and where do you want her to go? I mean, what's the longevity for her? And I really didn't get anything back in that conversation with him, and I felt really I was just kind of mad, and I feel that I could be doing a lot more. I mean, meaning if I could even generate the possibility of bringing women back in wrestling. I mean, I fought for that for a whole year, for women wrestling. I don't mean all the time, just intermittently if possible, to make it some type of competitive sport, some type of sport that people are going to recognize it as a sport, so that we can get some type of respect.
Yeah, I think I think that the business, you're saying intermittently, but my personal feeling has been that there should be a good quality women's match on every major show, on every show.
Well, there's people out there that want it. They want to see it. They want to see a real athletic woman. And I was determined, and always have been determined, since I got in this business. I really wanted to stay away from the cheesecake, TNA type of image, and I fought for that hard. And so I really geared towards the athleticism, and I think that's why, in fact, I know that's why I left America years ago to go over to Japan, because I had to go for the School of Hard Knocks, and you can't buy knowledge, John. And it was my greatest years of professional wrestling for myself was over in Japan.
And, of course, you became a superstar over in the Orient.
Well, I don't know about superstar, John. They flatter and thank you.
Yeah, well, you did.
But they call them pop idols over there. And I think what happened is you have to gain their trust and their respect, and you have to work triple hard. Because if they know that you're over there for a long time, you get ignored big time by the other girls. And because they know that there's competition. So I had to work twice as hard just to prove myself almost. And to me, I got off on that because all it did was better me.
Yeah.
So I was like really anxious to come back to the United States, and oh my gosh, this could be the door, the new thing of women's wrestling, And sure enough, me going to Japan, I did open up a few doors now for a few of the American girls to go over there and stay at periods of time, and I'm really happy. I'm really happy to see that is happening, and hopefully that something will be created here. And that's mainly one of the reasons also why I left WCW. I was also one of the lowest paid at WCW, and I couldn't figure that out. I felt that I was a multi-talented type of character, and I just wasn't marketed or used well.
Thoughts?
Imagine that. Well, I mean, that chick is, just spot on. She is. I'm not going to rebuttal anything. Right. I think I did say that I had a 6-figure income, and that wasn't true back then. It was $75,000. I think I was told I was going to get a 6-figure, and it could have been in negotiations. But yeah, I didn't make 6 figures.
How would you compare the pay over in Japan when you were there to like America? Was the money better for the time that you spent there in comparison to what you were earning in the States?
No. The guys got paid really well because they were there intermittently, and they would stay short times and leave, and they got paid some good money. However, it was a learning time. It was being schooled. It was a time to go over there to hone my craft, and I knew that this was it if I was going to be respected and mean anything in the United States. So I knew that I had to give up a lot, which didn't bother me because I didn't have anything in the States to leave, really. And so I just jumped at the chance. It was the best thing.
And it was much more respected there. Mm-hmm. If you were a female athlete, performer, wrestler, than it was in the States. It was a whole different ballgame, wasn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, and even till today, it really is. I mean, Japanese women's wrestling has always been the top of its game all over the world. And I mean, Mexican women's wrestling is, very good. However, the women's American wrestling always got the TV. They got the hype. They got the glamour. They get all of this where the others work so hard, just to get that spot. So a lot less talented women. I'm not saying there isn't talented women, more so today, because the rosters were smaller back then anyway. But yeah, there was, I mean, things evolve, things get better. That's what we work so hard for, right?
And no one worked harder than you.
Oh, they did too. There was women that worked as hard as I did.
The things that you did in Japan, you go there, you train hard, you're in a foreign country, but you're learning the profession. It elevated you when you came back to the States. It elevated you because your work and the way you worked was so different from anything wrestling fans had seen before in a women's division or women's matches. It was hard hitting and believable. So you made an impact after you were over in Japan. You came back to the States. You made an impact, and you opened up the eyes of the wrestling media, the wrestling magazines, the newsday magazines, the insider sheets, shows like mine. Everyone wanted to see you in the ring.
My work ethic had a lot to do with that. And my work ethic until this day is basically the same. I multitask more today because there's more today as far as social media. There's this, there's that.
Yeah.
However, it's just I have a very hard work ethic. And I don't know where that came from because I really didn't have any guidance. I just adapted. And it was because of the environment that I chose to be in.
Well,
and I think people saw that, I think that's what they admired. And when I came back to the States, a lot of women wouldn't wrestle me because it was new and it was scary and I was hard hitting. And, I didn't hurt anybody. The only person I think I kicked accidentally was Luna in the mouth and ruined her teeth, but that was an accident.
She was okay with it.
Oh, after she beat the shit out of me at the Madison Square Garden dressing room in Bull Nakano, saw that. Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. Tits hanging out everywhere. Fans going by. The old MSG, and there's a door and you open it up. The hallway's there and you have all these hundreds of fans. And oh, my God. It was so crazy. I think it's in the book. I'm not sure. I forgot.
And the book is called The Woman Who Would Be King, the Madusa story with Deborah Michelli and Greg Oliver. And it's available now everywhere.
Because of you.
I highly recommend it.
Don't you love the circle of life? I mean,
I do.
You and we met way back then and we had the interview and then I worked for you. And then years later, how did we connect? Did I reach out to you?
When we reconnected?
Yeah.
Recently?
Yeah.
Wow.
See?
That's an interesting story. Because when I came back.
I did.
I think you did reach out initially. But when I came back, when I decided to do podcasts and all of that, then we did kind of reconnect. Yeah.
We did. And then it's like we just picked up where we left off. We were having morning coffee together. We'd call each other, which you owe me a morning coffee, by the way.
I do.
And we would chat in the mornings and then, just about life. And then we'd meet, we'd do things together. And then you introduced me to ECW Press. And I love the circle of life. I love good people.
Well, I knew your story would be fascinating, and I knew that it was time for the Madusa story to go out there. So any door that I opened for you, it was done because I knew that your story needed to be told.
My hub. I'm going to get you a T-shirt, or I'm going to have like a logo made or something for a hat.
Double X, please.
Oh, yeah, you sound like Marsh. Like, I got something for you. I need an extra large. I'm like, you don't even know what it is.
That's one of the things I really love about this particular episode is hearing 30 years ago and the clips even before it. John has always been such a champion for you. And so it's not a surprise that these years later, you wanted to get your story out there and he was going to champion that to the best of his ability. Because even before this episode, the episode before, he's going on and on about how Madusa's so good they won't let her wrestle because she's embarrassing the boys and all that stuff. Like at the end of it, he even talks about how he wants you to be a booker and stuff. Like he's never stopped singing your praises in 30 years.
Oh, John.
Let's see a little bit more of the show, though. You do ask her.
Mark.
Yeah. It's so silly.
You do ask her a little bit about how she was trained, and you do talk about Ed Sharkey. You do talk about quitting nursing. You do talk about the excitement of Vince bringing Luna back because you think that you're very hopeful that means the women's division is to follow. But you did not see WrestleMania 9, and you have not spoken to Vince. You made that very, very clear. You do say that you are planning to go back to Japan in August 25th, and then John does ask you about some of your favorite people to work with, and then we take a caller right after, which I thought, because of our recent encounter at WrestleCon, was a very timely question that this man asked.
Who has been here in the States and in Japan? Who have been your favorite people to work against?
Well, I would say one of the girls here in the United States that I felt that I've had a really good match was Legata. She is I believe she's from Mexico, but she's here in the United States, and I don't know whatever happened to her, but she's very talented girl. And in Japan, there was a lot. I'd say every single one, mainly. I mean, I was sporting my nose on the left side and right side every other day, so.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty brutal.
They take their wrestling very seriously over there.
Oh, very seriously. And the thing that's so rewarding over in Japan, the wrestling, is they treat it so much like a sport because it is a sport. I mean, you have your collegiate and everything combined, and your kicking and your martial arts and your wrestling and all in the ring, and you really have to be thinking. So when you're in a special meet or a competition, and you know you're going for the gold, and I mean you actually get ribbons with the gold medal, just like in the Olympics, and you get huge trophies almost as tall as I am, and you get plaques and diplomas, and it really makes you feel good.
it makes you feel like you're accomplishing something. And it's not just always calls from the debtors. Mm-hmm. You really actually get something back. And it's very rewarding. I don't mean just getting diplomas and plaques and stuff like that. It's important, but it really, after 8 years in the business and you see something like that, it brings tears to your eyes, and it's very special.
Okay, let's go back to the phones, 212-477-5610. We're going to go to Frank from Queens. Frank, you're next.
Hello. Hi, John. Madusa. Good to talk to you. Okay, I got 2 quick questions. Okay, will you ever cut another record deal with Japan? And what do you think of Bull Nakano in Japan, and would you wrestle her?
You mean Bull Nakano?
Yeah, okay.
Maybe that's a new one I don't know of yet. But, no, I hate singing. I'd rather leave my singing in the shower. The Japanese, when they see something and, they hear maybe a few good tunes out of you, or they see something that's really marketable, especially a 5'10" blonde or something over in Japan. I mean, me or anybody, they think, hey, we can market this girl, make lots of money, So that's what they did. I mean, it was fun. I sang in Japanese, and I loved it. I mean, if I had a voice, I'd go for it. But between us girls.
Have you been doing any independent work in Florida or anywhere in the South?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have. Very selective because, I do because I like what I do, and it's near home, and I like to keep fit in the ring, and, I don't want to go rusty.
Okay.
Thanks a lot. Nice talking.
Thank you for your call.
Yeah.
Recording star.
Whatever. The Japanese, when they see it, they promote everything and anything. And then once they have you, they're like, you can sing. You're going to be a boxer. No, you're going to Thailand because you're going to, do some
I guess they saw you as
Thai
somebody
kickboxing.
that was marketable, is what they saw in you over there. Because you had such a different look than what people were seeing in the ring.
Well, American tall blonde, absolutely. Right. Yes. Right. And it was back in the 80s. So
yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So why not? And they did it, and they did it well. In fact, if you look at America, who really promoted me that hard like that?
Right.
Really? I think I got the best promotion with WWE after I was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
And that took a while.
It took, 30-something. Yeah, long time. 25, whatever.
Yeah. Before we get to the next clip, the name Alundra Blaze is...
It's in my book.
Oh, so no spoilers about how the name came about and all of that?
Oh, it's a good one. It's a great one. Yes. I will tell you this. I remember speaking to Vince, and he loved the name. But I already had a name picked out, and so he was willing to listen. And then there's more to it. Yeah, it's in the book. It's a great story.
Yeah. Yeah, so buy that book. It's available everywhere. And you'll hear all the stuff.
Well, there's not everything in there. As I'm listening to this audio. Mm-hmm. It sparked a few things, and I remembered a few things. So it will really help me in book number 2 or 3, whatever chapters I decide to continue to write about.
Know what a cool memory is? And it's not too long ago. It was when we were co-hosting or co-emceeing the CAC.
Mm.
And of course, WWE is a sponsor of that event. And and I kept forgetting to call you Alundra, because that was kind of like the dictate. You got to call her Alundra. And then I guess I started making a joke at it, looking at the WWE table and saying,
right.
"Oh, sorry, Alundra."
It was so good. Because Paul, when he sees me, he's like, "Deuce!" He just yells it across the whole WWE arena. Like, I don't want to give it away, but there's something fantastic happening. So I got a call from WWE. I don't know, maybe a week ago, and so for the first time ever, I'm signing some Panini cards as Madusa.
Oh, really? Nice.
Yes. So, yeah. There's a little spoiler coming out. I can't... Oh, well, whatever.
Well, that's cool. Anything...
First time heard right here.
That's very cool. I'm very happy. Yeah. Because people, no matter how many years you were there...
I know.
to me, you're always going to be Madusa. I just, I know what they do, and this is part of what they do. I mean, this is how they've become this multi-billion-dollar company, and then now is owned by Endeavor. Is like they knew how to brand and trademark and do their stuff. I
think it's great that they merged. I think it's going to really explode. It's going to be, I mean, the kids better buckle up because it's going to move fast. It's going to go in directions. There's going to be so many opportunities, and just enjoy the ride. The kids are there.
Have a company now that also has William Morris under the umbrella. I mean, all of these, all the agents and all of the cross-platform, crossover opportunities, to the film industry. There'll be more opportunities to the film and television industry outside of what you do in the ring. Mm-hmm. So if anyone is, looking at this as, they just bought us, look at the benefits that come.
They're not. A lot of them are not. They're just think I don't understand they're young, but I know a lot of them are smart. But I thought when I got wind of it before it happened, and I was like, this is going to be fantastic. Yeah. This is going to be so good. I wish I was a women's pro wrestler today, just because I know my style and it fits in today's women's wrestling, and I could just excel. Yeah, I was way ahead of my time.
The business is healthy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, very.
Marsh, what do we got on 30 years ago? What's our next?
Well, all right, after that caller, you had a real jerk call in. Some kid named Andrew from Brooklyn says, if you're so concerned about the future of women's wrestling, why did you do a bikini contest? And you handled that so well. Just for the sake of time, I didn't clip it, but you do say that Missy Hyatt had gotten with Kip Fry, and by the time you got to the building, it was going to happen, and you didn't even know about it. So did you have heat with Missy Hyatt? Because you talked nicely of her here.
No, she's my sister wife.
Yeah. Yeah.
But years ago, there was never anything between you two?
Missy and I would laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, because it sounded like you were careful not to make it sound like you had an issue with Missy. And so I was like, that's cool.
Again, I was very careful. And I wrote some notes here. So Legata, yes. Like I said, Mexico. It validated what I said earlier, that the Japanese and the Mexican wrestlers are, hands down. And that was only 8 years ago. Like when I was doing that interview then, I was only wrestling 8 years, still green behind the ears. And it really validated again that I love my younger self. You know how we had this thing that was going around, if you could say something to your younger self, what would you say? Well, you know what I would say? I would be like, this girl rocked and I haven't changed. Who can say that? And I just got better as a person. And so without having a father figure and a mother that guided me and no sisters or brothers, what the hell was it? And it still baffles me. And to this day, how did I not become a statistic? Mm-hmm. I think I had blinders on, and it was that fight or flight, scared of never wanting to go back. And I think that's why I stuck true to myself. And what I'm trying to say is I just listened to this interview and I heard the clips of some things I said. And from the very first interview I've ever done up until this day before my book, my interviews were basically all the same. I would say the same thing in the stories. And I knew jumping in, talking to Kai Michelson before I even got into wrestling, if it wasn't for Kai Michelson, I wouldn't be sitting here with you three, really. And he said, I need to, you belong in the entertainment business. And, of course, I thought acting or stunt, and I wanted to be a stunt woman. And so I thought, okay. And then it didn't happen. And I went straight into wrestling. And I just, listening to that younger self, I'm happy. I'm just so blown away.
Yeah. So what do they say? If you just are honest, you don't have to remember all the lies. Like you can't get tangled up in the whole thing. And I feel like you and Conan were very similar in that regard.
Really?
You both grew up 30 years, but you're both very much the same of who you were 30 years ago because you remained honest and true.
We need a t-shirt like that.
Just you and Conan.
Lots of T-shirts being created from this episode.
I know.
Lots of T-shirts.
The hub. That's it. John, the hub, John's hub or something. I don't know. And then we'll have like a little beehive and little.
You could call me Hubba Ray Dudley.
Hubba. No, the hub. Hubba. Hubba. Yeah. Oh, we're onto something. My mind's working.
So, there's another part where John just straight up asks you, "Hey, a lot of people said that Bill Watts is incredibly difficult to work with. What was your impression of Bill Watts?" And you said he showed up the first day in a Harley Davidson shirt, so you guys got along just fine.
But he was a dick, really.
You did say he was a very ballistic human being.
Did
you guys got along?
Good word.
He was a very ballistic human being. Yeah. God, that couldn't be more truer for him.
And if you want to hear the entire episode, the original broadcast, just go to patreon.com/John Arezzi. $5 a month gets you in the door, and you can have all the archives at your disposal.
That's awesome. I will.
$5 a month. And there's just over 200 shows on there now.
Jesus.
This was right off the heels of WrestleMania, though, so there's a lot of callers who call in about WrestleMania type stuff, asking about the second doink and such. However, there's one caller that I didn't clip for time's sake as well, where they're asking what you think about the future is with WWF and WCW because of a lot of the uneasiness backstage concepts. And you really focused on the future of the industry and said that you think that there's going to be a huge shift from ticket sales to TVs and pay-per-views. And you said, I think there's going to be monthly pay-per-views. I think that TV deals are going to be the big thing to push for the monthly pay-per-views. And you think that their hope will be that pay-per-views will sell tickets and it's not going to be the other way around. And
Jesus,
that's exactly what happened for Monday Night Wars, right?
So
holy crap. Well, I was planting the seed. Not that I knew I was going to drop the title then. I didn't. So everybody, when I do this, make sure you watch because I don't know that I'm going to do it. No, I didn't know.
That's true. And then I wanted to play this one last caller you had who asked you about some of your Japanese matches. And I thought you had a pretty interesting conversation about your just the tapes you had of Japan.
We're going to go to Carmel, New York now and talk to Joe from Carmel.
Hey, Madusa, John, how you doing?
Good.
I have a question for Madusa. Madusa, have you ever wrestled Manami Toyota?
Yes, I have. What an awesome wrestler.
Yeah, she's really cool. I was just wondering.
Yes, she's kind of like Billy Robinson, woman with 1,000 moves, so to speak, you know.
Are many of your matches from over in Japan on videotape?
I had a lot of, I had a huge following and everything, so a lot of the fans were very giving over there, so I've got a lot of VHS tapes of my house matches over there, yes.
Because here in the States, there's so much underground videotape collecting, and tapes of Madusa are, pretty rare to find, even on the black market, so to speak.
That's right. Well, we try to keep it that way.
Yeah, but I'm sure the fans would love to have the opportunity. I wish there was
but when there is, there's I believe there's a lot. Well, there's a lot in works, but it'd be nice to have the best of.
Yes, it certainly would, and I'm sure that would be a big seller.
Mm-hmm. To this day, I think, to the wrestling fans, to go back and see that hard-hitting style.
Do you know? I do. I do. You guys, I have probably 25 plastic bins. You wouldn't believe the VHS tapes. Right, you wouldn't believe, see, back then Japan had these things called DVDs, but they weren't this size. They had the ones that were like this size.
Smaller.
The mini DVs.
Compact.
Yeah. In fact, my Who's Madusa song was on that.
Wow.
You are I'm going to use this as not a derogatory term, because I'm the same way. You're kind of a pack rat. You saved everything. You saved a lot of your stuff from your career, and not only wrestling, monster trucks, everything that you've done, you have saved a lot of stuff.
But from the sound of it, it was intentionally because you knew there was money to be made with it later.
Or somehow my marketing genius thinking knew that the world was going to evolve, and somehow, some way, I was going to use this. Yes.
That's why I saved everything.
Yeah.
Exactly. And look at you. Look at this. This has got to be the most ingenious thing ever.
I want to go
John.
digitize all your matches and then do watch-alongs of all your old Japanese matches with you.
Are you crazy? How do you do that?
You pay.
I have
pay for it.
No, I have it. I have a VCR. I got the cables. I got the computer. I've been digitizing VHSs for a little bit.
All right, we'll talk about that. I mean, there's a lot.
I know it's going to be a hell of an undertaking. But even here, because John says these tapes would be great, and you go, but there's nothing out there, and you're like, yep, I have made sure there's nothing out there. Like,
that black market. I kind of
You didn't want someone else making money off your matches.
Hell no.
So good.
Nope, not going there. No. But people tried, but there wasn't really the internet out there to put anything out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It was difficult.
Thank God.
We have a caller calling in about Hogan's black eye. I like that Madusa interrupts and just says, who cares why he had a black eye? Why are you guys wasting your time on this? Like, so what? He had a black eye.
It was WrestleMania 9, right?
Yeah.
Talk about me. Who cares about Hogan?
I think what it was is you were just you're on John's show, so you couldn't hate that industry on whole, but it was like there's a certain level of it that I think you thought of as like the dirt part of the sheets, right? Like now you're just getting into dirty rumors. Why can't you stay above board? I think was the concept. You talk highly of Paul Lee because John asked you if you were laying in the kick stiff, and you called him his own worst enemy at times, but he makes you laugh.
Yes, his mouth got him in trouble quite a bit. But that was Paul. Paul's silver tongue is his moneymaker. So, and fast forward today, he's still working and still on top.
Genius.
And I know we have you for a very limited amount of time, so I just want to play this one last final clip. This is how John signs off of the show with you.
Boy.
And again, John's been your champion for 30 years, as you've been our champion for 30 years. I just thought this was an amazing way for him to wrap it up.
I tell you one thing, Madusa, there was just wrapping it up here. If there's ever in the future a woman who may become the first woman booker, I know you had mentioned that in a public
I got a lot of
report.
heat on that one.
Well, it's something that maybe should happen. It's something that down the road hopefully will happen. And I want to promise the fans out there, and I've talked to you, Madusa, about some personal appearances up here in this area.
I'd love to come. I love New York.
Well, we're going to try to set up a live remote situation with a new sponsor coming in, and
I love Mountain Dew.
well, let's try to hook them up.
And I love pineapple, black olive, and jalapeno pizzas.
Okay, we'll promise you when you get up here, we'll certainly take care of those requests, and the fans will certainly get an opportunity to meet you here in the very near future.
How about my own personal chef?
Okay,
he's a great cook.
Okay, you just say what type of food that you would like. Italiano. Okay, we know plenty of great Italians up here in this area.
Hey, the DiMaggio's up there are real good.
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure. This hour has gone so very quickly, and we'll be speaking to you real soon. I want to thank you, Madusa, for coming on tonight.
It's been a pleasure, and thank you very much.
Okay, you take care now.
There she goes. It was a wrap. It was good. It was fun for me.
Oh, I love this, John. You don't know how much this is so good. I mean, not just mine, but I mean, I can't wait. When I go on Patreon and listen to everybody else and how you had Conan, right?
Yes, that was amazing.
Gosh, and what a great guy, really. I mean, he's been through some trials and tribulations.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. But his Hall of Fame induction speech of Ray was incredible.
A lot of feelings.
Yeah, that Hall of Fame ceremonies. I mean, that induction to me was the best one I'd ever seen in the Hall of Fame's history, with Ray and Conan speaking from the heart, going over the evolution of this true Hall of Famer's career and how it all started with his brother Conan.
Oh. I know it. I love good stuff like that because you can feel it.
Yes.
You can feel it. You can relive it. It plays in your head. Maybe you can resonate on some way. But John, I want to listen to the whole thing. I'm sure there's a lot more, right?
Oh, there's so much.
Yeah. There's a lot of fun that you guys have together. But it is important to note 30 years ago, pineapple on pizza. You heard it here.
There it is.
She's 30 years ago. I'm telling you. banana peppers or black olives and pineapple. And now I put barbecue sauce on it. I grew up. Or people are going to throw up, but
I'm not adverse to pineapple on pizza myself, and I
don't know what the big deal is. It sweetens it up.
Right, exactly.
A little sweet, salty. It's perfect.
I love sweet and salty. Yes. Mm-hmm. What else I was going to say? Diet Mountain Dew. That's like my jam. Till this day. If I need do what?
Were you trying to get a sponsorship there? The way you
Back
said that
then?
again? Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe.
I love Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Hey, John, yeah, I don't know. Maybe, I don't know, whatever we were talking about. But yeah, so I don't know if I even mentioned this in the book, but this will be in book number 2. You're hearing it first again here. Another spoiler. I've never had a Pepsi or a Coca-Cola, Coke in my life.
No kidding.
Never. I swear to God on Daisy. I'm out. Yes. Never had a Coke, never had a Dr. Pepper, never had a Pepsi, never had anything, Pib, nothing. Never had anything dark, never had a root beer, nothing.
What if I got you a clear root beer? Would you drink it? Is the problem that it's too dark?
The smell, I don't know. But it just because we could not afford it. So my first bottle, it was bottles back then, I think, and it was like bottle of pop was Orange Crush. Mm-hmm. So Orange Crush was my favorite.
I love Orange Crush.
Orange Crush, and then I grew up and got my Diet Mountain Dew.
Wow.
Yeah, little tidbit there.
Before we let you go, why don't
You'll never let me go, John.
Never let you go.
I'll always be here.
Before we have to say so long for now.
How about see you later?
See you later. I'd like you to tell everybody out there all the things that you're doing right now, how people can hang out with you and play video games, and the podcasts that you do. And Marsh is involved with the team Madusa. Just let everybody know, like, what is going on with you and how the heck can they hang out with you?
Well, first of all, I want to say thank you for having me. And I was really excited. I wasn't even skeptical. I wasn't even scared about the audio that you had. And I never asked questions. I never asked Marsh. Nothing. If anything, you or him or whatever may have sent me something, but I never got scared, right?
No, but you're not the only one, though. I mean, because everyone who we've done this with, they've all kind of not listened to the link. They're like, let's just wing it. And it's the best way to do it.
It is, because I'd rather do it that way and catch you off guard, or can you answer this or why? I thought that's more organic, right? And thank you. Thank you for doing that. I love everything about this. Keep doing what you're doing. I love how we circled back. I love how things are. And Marsh, I thank you for what you do. You're amazing. And I guess if you want to know what I'm doing, you just go to Madusa.com, Madusa.com. Everything's on there. My book, all my socials. It's just easier that way. Otherwise, it's Madusa across the board, all socials. They just announced that I am on the board with the CAC, so now I'll be working with a wonderful charity that I truly believe in, and it has to do with our entertainment business, sports entertainment, pro wrestling, and working under the wings under a few people, and especially under Brian Blair, and hopefully work into a position. I see visions of that where I would like to see different things and change a little bit.
There's a lot of potential.
Baby
with the
steps.
Organization.
There is a lot of potential, but baby steps when you work with just men.
Yes.
Just
no,
men.
I mean, and no disrespect to anybody who's on the board.
No, not at all.
There's a lot of there's a lot of legends. There's a lot of people who've been involved with the wrestling business for many, many years. But to get that perspective of somebody with your creative mind, who's kind of a really forward thinker about the future, evolution. How can we?
This interview proves it.
Grow this. How can we grow the CAC to make it truly become larger than what it is today? And they do an incredible job. Don't get me wrong, but to bring in some younger, fresher minds with a different perspective to kind of, that glass ceiling.
Yes, it helps. It helps a lot.
That is now, in every industry kind of breaking, and there's so many inroads today. Yeah, I think that the addition of you on the CAC board is a way big 2 thumbs up, and they're going to benefit by your creativity, your knowledge, and your empathy to the people that have been in the business. So I think it's a great addition. And
Brian is he's a huge fan of mine, and he really he really pushes a lot of my ideas. And so I'm very thankful that he's open to that. And the other things I'm doing full circle, when I first started this business, I did a couple movies and I really loved acting. So I kind of was going in that direction until I jumped into wrestling. So full circle again, now I'm jumping back into movies. I just finished my, a movie called The Champion, which is now turned into a series. It sounds like we may be picked up. So, keep your fingers crossed there, guys. Yeah. And so, and then of course, running, my own companies and merchandise and just, and traveling. And most of all, promoting this book. It was like peeling back an onion, and I finally did it. And I'm glad I did, because it's getting some great reviews and it makes me happy. Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I still have that belt.
Yeah, this is back from one of my shows. I mean, you had that belt. You took that belt to, I believe you took that belt to Southeast Asia.
Did I really?
Yeah. I believe you did.
That's the People's Champ from Japan. Where is that one?
That's from Singapore. You're being interviewed by some of the media there.
Oh, you're kidding me.
Yeah.
Oh my
you did a lot of
goodness.
interviews. I mean, that was interesting. We got to, when the tour happens, and the tour happened in July of 1993.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to have to bring you back and talk about what you remember about the tour, and share some never before seen footage.
Please.
In the ring. Because
I would love to. We need to do that.
With Wendy, Richter, and we had that incredible 8-person tag team match, which to this day, there's never been one promoted like it before. When you have a Mexican mini on one team, with a twin, with a female competitor, and a masked wrestler against the same on the other side. It was the most bizarre but most entertaining.
It was bizarre.
And we didn't know. And I think you know who put that match together, right?
It wasn't me.
No, but you know the person who wrote the forward to your book.
Paul.
Together, yeah.
I'll leave it to Paul. Yeah, let's try this. This is gonna work.
And it did.
So good.
It was great. But anyway, I know you're busy. I want to thank you. Everybody out there, Amazon.com, no matter where you buy your books, The Woman Who Would Be King, the Madusa story, out now, selling like hotcakes. Congratulations on the success of this book, and I hope it leads to many more opportunities for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And again, guys, if you haven't, make sure you get Matt Memories, because his book was fantastic. Again, published by ECW Press as well. John's book is amazing. And so signing off, John, thank you. Love you to death. Marsh, I can't wait. I can be your ordained and marry you and your woman. Just let me know.
We'll see if Gonzo comes through.
Wow, wouldn't that be something?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just going to throw that out there. Okay, time for me to leave. Marsh, I'll get together with you on our stuff later.
Absolutely. Take care. Awesome.
Thank you, everybody, for listening.
Bye.
Peace out. Bye.
Wow. She's great.
She's awesome.
She's great, man.
It's funny. There's a caller in there I don't think I even mentioned who says that his big takeaway and his biggest fear was that she would go to Japan and never come back.
Yeah.
And she still talks about Japan in the same way, where you go, I think she might want to finish her career there if she had her say.
She needs one more match, and I'm sorry I didn't bring that up when we had her. We've discussed it before, and I know she wants to do it.
Yeah.
She's got to do it.
I want her to. I've fantasy booked a few of them, and my favorite of all of them right now would involve her being in Japan. So,
yeah,
I think it'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she deserves it, and hopefully it'll happen for her. I mean, she's still She's still in great shape. She works out. She runs. She jogs. I mean, she's so active. I mean, she's just so intense.
And of all of the wrestlers of those different eras that weren't able to put a bow on their careers the way they wanted to, hers was really some of them. I mean, such a mess over and over again. Like, if we could put a bow on one career one way, the way they want it done.
She deserves it. The book is fascinating. The book is incredible. It's a tearjerker. How could someone overcome everything that she's overcome in every occupation, not just wrestling, monster trucks too. I mean, the stuff she had to overcome and just had to endure.
Yeah. And still believe that it was for a purpose, that it would get better. Like, it never beat her down.
No.
Hey,
she's got more energy today, and her mind never stops. She doesn't know how to stop, and she never will. But she's someone who is going to have a life, and all these years that she's done these incredible things, she's never going to slow down because she loves it too much.
Yeah, all of it.
And it's authentic love. It's not like, I have to do this. She just loves it. She's got passion for it. She wants to help other people, and that's why I'm so happy she's hooked up with CAC.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to be big. I think that, like you said, my first time going to CAC, I loved it, but I did think this could be more. And so it's really nice to get a fresh set of eyes in there to help grow, to help it grow.
Yeah, if they open up their ears and open up their minds and allow different points of view, there's some good stuff that can happen.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be the same as it always was.
Right.
It can be better. So
that's right. Well, Marsh, good one. Another good one. We have had a lot of fun today. I'm glad you're feeling better. And that's going to about wrap it up. I mean, tell everybody what you're up to in Marsh world.
Yeah, I'm just busy working with Madusa and working with you over. We got youtube.com/Queen of Carnage. We got youtube.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight. I've been helping out Nick Hausman with his House of Wrestling. And then coming up, I think my show's going to be coming back, Wrestling on the Rocks.
Cool.
Just some good friends getting drunk and yelling at each other about wrestling, but still staying friends,
Well, I'd love to do that show someday. Invite me on so I can get drunk with you guys. And
that'll be fun.
And yell.
Well, we also have some people who smoke when they come on. It's it's not about what you're drinking, it's who you're drinking with. So you can do whatever you want.
Hey, listen, I'm not adverse to that either.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll review something for sure.
I'm a child of the 60s. Remember that. I was there when it happened. My sister went to Woodstock, brother.
Did she?
My older sister went to Woodstock, brother. I wasn't allowed to go. My mother wouldn't let me.
How old were you when Woodstock happened?
I was 12.
12, yeah. So probably it would have been an issue.
Well, I wanted to go. I mean, that was the thing. I mean, I went to my first concert was the Beatles, 66, and
amazing.
And then I went to see Grand Funk Railroad at Shea Stadium, and I took my older sister with me. Grand Funk Railroad with the opening act, Humble Pie, Peter Frampton, the day Jim Morrison died, Shea Stadium, and it was hippie land, man. It was like passing joints around. It was crazy, and I think I was 13 at the time. And then I had bought tickets to see Jethro Tull at Madison Square Garden, which I used to listen to stoned all the time with my older sister and her husband. And my mother wouldn't let me go to that show.
I am a big fan of Jethro Tull.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I've been, went to college in the 70s, man. A little bit of everything. Hung out with rock and roll bands. How I survived is another story for another day.
Absolutely. And we'd love to have you on and have a drink with us and talk.
I'd love it,
anyone
man.
who's listening,
Love it.
So.
All right, my friend. Good to see you. And we'll be talking to you soon and keep up the great work. I mean, the YouTube channel is off the chart good. I mean, off the chart good. I have to, if you haven't watched it, go watch the YouTube version of this podcast. The visuals, the clips, photographs, you do an incredible job.
I'm trying to, because I think when I first started, I was overcomplicating it at times, trying to just pack a lot of photos in.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to make them count.
I'm
putting them where they matter and where it makes a difference, and not just cluttering it.
And how much creative direction do I give you?
Just all of it.
I just tell you, go do it. I trust you. You do it, and I've never said that doesn't look right.
9 times out of 10, if I say, hey, I want to do this thing, your response is, then go ahead and do that thing.
Yeah, I just didn't like, the only thing that I think I had corrected once was like, it was my hairline.
You wanted the drawing to be updated?
Yeah.
But all this
I
is
still have a full head of hair at my age.
You do.
It's all real. And it's not gray. That's the screwed up thing.
I know. You should see my brother. He's only 2 years older than me. Just jet white.
Yeah.
He looks like Donahue.
No, I mean, it's not. It's still there. I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I don't understand it. I'm a genetic freak.
It's one of those things. My grandfather, up until he was into his 80s, had very little gray hair.
Yeah. Some people, I mean, maybe it's the fact that I just don't give a shit about anything. I don't stress about shit no more. Because stress makes your hair gray.
I could see that, yeah. That explains why I got gray when 8th grade.
There you go.
Yeah.
I don't believe in getting gray. It ain't going to happen.
Absolutely. But thank you so much, John.
Hey, thank you. I'm rambling on. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with me. Thank you, sir. That's going to wrap up this edition of John Arezzi's Pro Wrestling Spotlight. You could join our private group, facebook.com/Pro Wrestling Spotlight Podcast and Radio Show. We have a public page to share history. That's at facebook.com, John Arezzi's Map Memories. There's a private group there as well. Please, 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 I ask you 2 things. Well, I'll ask you 3. 1, subscribe to our YouTube channel now, please. Also, if you're listening to this podcast on Apple, please give it a 5-star review. Write a review about it if you like what you hear, because that helps grow the audience, and we want to grow the audience. And finally, join the Patreon page, patreon.com/John Arezzi for $5. The wealth of content that you have there is unbelievable. For $5 a month, and other levels are available. And it helps with the creation of this show. It keeps Marsh paid. And that's what we have to do. So you have to join Patreon for $5 a month. And if you want other levels, they're there for you. So please do that and help the show. If you enjoy what we do here, just join Patreon and subscribe to us on your podcast platforms and on YouTube, because there'll be a lot more content to come if you help support the show. I want to thank executive producers on Patreon, Anthony Pyrus and Joe Holloway, and for everybody else who helps and is a member of our Patreon account. Until next week, when we relive more history with you, this is John Arezzi for the Pro Wrestling Spotlight.